Welcome back. I have Professor J with me from Integral. Hey, Professor.
Hello, hello. Hi, Anthony. Happy to be here with you.
I'm very happy to have you. Congratulations on your successful product launch. And yeah, you're here to tell us about the last exchange. So I'm excited to hear about that.
Wonderful. So I think
Jesus.
if everything's set up, we're on the title slide of the. Everyone can see, right?
Yeah, just
Okay.
okay. Yeah, now the stage is yours.
Wonderful. All right. So, hi everyone. This is Professor J from Integral. So at Integral, we are building the last exchange, and so extremely grateful here for organizers of ZeroX Hack for having us. So today, what we'll be talking about is first, I'll give a brief intro to what we're doing with our vision at Integral for liquidity. And afterwards, we'll dive into some elements of the Integral journey so far in going from really just an idea to a product and going to market and covering some of the aspects of the softer sides of hacking and building a product. So, what is Integral? We're really going after this big vision of creating better next generation liquidity on chain. So what we have done so far to date is actually enable better, large, efficient peer-to-peer swapping of large spot trades and seeking best execution on chain via a phenomenon we call liquidity mirroring. Now, this is currently doing this on Ethereum, but this will certainly change as we progress more in the future, as you've seen from our momentum so far. So we are building a DEX in this automated market maker form where we really want to continue on this trend of democratizing liquidity that a lot of popular first generation AMMs have enabled. So some of the largest AMM DEXs out there have done a great job of allowing a lot of people out in DeFi, the first tens of thousands of users, to actually tap into basically being liquidity providers themselves and serving as market makers for other peer traders out there. So this is a trend we want to tap into and actually continue, and that's what we do with our first product. And we want to actually continue this trend of a future of seeking capital efficient exchanging on chain around efficient use of liquidity. So this is where we think the next year or and beyond of AMMs is headed, and this is eventually something that as DeFi grows and grows into centralized finance, will become a bigger picture of how everyday participants can participate and be involved in basically this Web3 financial environment. And so, next slide. So that brings us to the question, basically, that we want to answer. What is the final form of AMMs? And this is what we seek to answer in the coming years. So what we have right now is our first shot at it on Ethereum, and certainly we look forward to growing and continuing to build with as this ecosystem evolves. So how do we kind of, before we dive into everything, I'll go through a timeline of how kind of what's happened so far and how we came to be. First, Integral started really with a hunch. It started with a hunch and intuition that, hey, there's something special happening in DeFi, and there's something happening with DEXs in this permissionless, open Ethereum environment where, the kind of centralized market makers that traditional finance is used to, these kind of middlemen who are serving the trades and kind of in US markets, people may be quite familiar now with the whole GameStop story, where market makers, very large market makers with big, blue chip names and like Citadel and so on have actually done most of the job of providing liquidity for the back end of a lot of trades in the retail financial space. And this is, we saw that this was changing in DeFi potentially with the way AMMs were structured. And we wanted to kind of continue innovating and see what we could build that continues making the access to liquidity unencumbered, but also democratized for people who want to help with market making. And so this led to some R&D and papers around this idea. So really this journey started 9 months ago, over 9 months ago now, as it's May. And in last fall, we actually came out with a few papers around basically the liquidity vision that we were excited about, things that we could use to build the next generation of liquidity math on chain, really. So this started with our AMM and limit order book systems paper, where we related how these two types of market designs can actually be equivalent and achieve similar results, which was very exciting there. And so after that, we started thinking about what we could actually build. How can we turn these ideas and interesting math to actually impact traders and LPs in the current DeFi ecosystem? And so after that was actually, as the product was being built, we realized, we actually need to figure out the plan for building a community around this and getting people excited about the vision that we see for DeFi and how it relates to the future of trading, liquidity, and finance. And so certainly next up is, of course, launching the actual product on Mainnet. So that happened just about 7 weeks ago. And of course, once we had some traction and initial excitement, we kind of need to actually fund ourselves and scale, basically fundraise, so that we can scale the product and keep growing and actually serve more traders and incentivize everybody involved in our ecosystem, including our liquidity providers. So because this is a hackathon, we'll talk about maybe a myth facing hackers and builders today. And this remains kind of true throughout the different waves of web technology building, right? So Web 1 with the internet, Web 2 with kind of social media applications and mobile apps, and now Web 3 with what we're doing around blockchain. So I think the myth is that this is building a product in this environment. Hacking all day, your friends think that's what you do, you think that's what you do, and certainly your mom thinks that's what you do. So, if you've been following along, perhaps you're a builder, a programmer, or a dev, and for kind of the way we think about it at Integral, this is actually, while this is a big part of actually bringing a product, building and bringing a product to market, there's actually a lot into the softer side of this. And after this presentation, my goal is to have you guys kind of appreciate more the coordination that's involved, that's outside of just pure building, whether it's Solidity smart contracts or getting websites up. There are many intangibles that go beyond that. So for the remainder of this talk, we'll focus on kind of all the other sides of what it took to bring Integral to market, and some of our lessons that go beyond just pure hacking. So building Integral is really a case study in choosing your own adventure. For us, it started, as I said, over 9 months ago, and it's been a joy to be on it. this is certainly not the case for, every hackathon project or every, even every team in this space. It's actually a hard journey, and we want to kind of share some of the kind of aspects that make it interesting. So first, you have to form a cast. Who is coming along on this adventure with you? Is everyone aligned on this? And we'll dive into kind of what happens there. And then there's a stage of choosing and setting a direction. So pathfinding and kind of recalibrating your direction, but also saying, hey, this is where we think the end vision is, where the end goal is, and building up conviction about your direction. And thirdly, one point is actually at the end of the day, no matter how much you hacked at something and how awesome you think it is internally, you have to bring it to market and show it to the world at some point and get those users kind of into your product and actually start impacting and helping people. So these are kind of three elements that we see as quite auxiliary but still very important to hacking, and they all have to work together in order for you to have a successful project in this space. And a lot of this extrapolates even beyond the crypto or Web3 environment. So hopefully after this, you will have a great taste of kind of what are these holistic other concerns around these three themes. And so note that these don't always happen in the sequence 1, 2, 3. And actually these themes you'll always have to keep revisiting. So we'll dive into how that is the case here. So first, let's talk about forming the cast. So one note is, before we talk about kind of how you build a team and forming a cast around kind of this shared adventure you're building up, one important thing is kind of everyone involved has to be open to this adventure when you are kind of building up your kind of your core team. So here we were looking at the scope of DeFi, and it happens that in 2020, DeFi was a very frontier space where a lot of things were in motion. A lot of early traction and early adoption was happening, which made the space very playful. So certainly, a lot of the great blue chip DeFi products we know now basically arose during last DeFi summer and gained in popularity. And the early users all approach this in a very playful way. It's also a very experimental environment. So, these are kind of values where you have to be playful and willing to experiment if you want to kind of build something new in this space. So these are traits that we look for, people who are willing to do this and keep their eye on the long term. So aligning on this is really quite important, and everyone has to kind of opt into this mentality. And that's what we decided was quite important, big picture for the team. And so now we dive into who is on this cast for your adventure. So if you're familiar with Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring was assembled to go basically on this mission, right? To get something done. Some ring was maybe dropped in a volcano somewhere, and Sauron was defeated. You need to have the same kind of level of alignment, as well as kind of building up a diverse team that you think can actually take you through to the end. And so one way you can think about this is, does everyone on your team are they covering different bases in terms of skills? Do you have expertise in the areas you need to basically make it through to the end of your journey? And so a framework that we like on our team is the hackers, hipsters, hustlers. And recently, there's been people introducing other aspects like hounds. And I'll go through what these are. So this is a framework for thinking about kind of how different members of your founding team may cover different bases with the different hats they wear in how they think, the skills they bring, the experience they bring. And certainly, for the scope of this talk, a lot of you may skew towards the hacker side. And so just a note here that it's very important, when you're building in Web3 to think about, do you have the expertise to kind of design and understand how to design to your users? Do you have somebody who can just run around and do basic biz dev and make friends with other folks in crypto and find you the resources you need, right? So for some projects, this may mean early fundraising. And then hounds, what the hound is somebody who is a research mindset, who thinks about kind of not only what will break the business or what will break the project today, but also how it looks next year or 5 years or 10 years or 20 years from now. So that being said, it's important to assemble this in your kind of try to cover your bases in your cast and grow into having a lot of these skills in-house or in your people you collaborate with. And so next is think about the resources you have. So this can span networks, whether it's about kind of reputation or collaborators you have who are willing to support you even when you have nothing, and who share the same vision for what you are building, right? So for us, it was a DeFi specifically. It was for trading and supplying liquidity on chain, and we had to go out and build over these 9 months, build a network and really just talk through friends in crypto, and actually kind of understand kind of where, how exactly is a surface area where you can collaborate in the future. Other times, some teams need capital to start. Our team basically self-funded in for the first 7 or 8 months of this journey before our public fundraise. So, depending on where you are at with your cast of members, and you may need to strategize around getting resources such as a robust network and working capital. So, but most importantly, in building your cast, you need an alignment. So you need general alignment on kind of what type of adventure is this? Are we missionaries who are trying to deliver the ring of doom to Sauron, or just to Mount Doom and basically destroy it, right? A shared mission that everyone has, or are we simply out there to make money? And there's certainly other types of ways of thinking about it in between the spectrum, but kind of at Integral, we decided quite early on that this mission was about really furthering on-chain liquidity and not about making a quick buck, right? So this allowed us to actually start making long-term decisions and communicating about long-term vision earlier on in a way with conviction. So this is important for your team, and for different teams, this may be different, right? So, but making sure everyone's on the same page here is actually quite important to the longevity of your adventure. So if you fall out of alignment, maybe the adventure may be in jeopardy at some point. So that concludes the who for your core team. What's important as well is kind of your core team is going to need help, right? The Fellowship of the Ring needed help from different characters across basically across the Lord of the Rings universe, right? You run into people who can give you feedback. So for us, we realized it was actually quite important to build a cast of collaborators and advisors, and as a kind of outer ring that can support the core team. And who you see here, 4 of our advisors from, you see Tarun from Gauntlet, that's Rob from Compound, and Olaf from Polychain, and that's Michael and Vance from Framework Ventures. So that's that was a decision we made a few months back where we saw that, hey, there's people who are willing to give us feedback. So actually, Tarun reached out when he first read our paper, when it was well before we had any product. This was late October, early November. And he just said, hey, look, I really enjoyed reading your equivalents of AMMs and order books, right? Like, and opened up a line to chat and learn more there about us. So that, I hope that gives you appreciation for, how kind of feedback can not only just give you more chance of succeeding earlier on, and also getting you friends who can give you reach within crypto and DeFi, right? So Rob and Tarun call it the DeFi homies, right? So they are as successful founders, they are incredibly supportive of people doing projects out there who are building for the future of DeFi. So it's DeFi homies supporting DeFi homies, right? And we adopted kind of this mentality as well. A friend of XYZ is a friend of Integral as well, right? If they're already kind of in our network. So this is the aspect of reach, right? So why we have collaborators and advisors is it's to help us actually get further in the journey and extend our reach beyond what the core team is actually capable of. So that's been an extreme help along this journey, where they can help you outreach as well as inbound you important things that they see going on in the space. So that being said, it's really about support, because on the adventure you are on, things can get tough. The tough can get going, and you need people to allies to sometimes even pick you up when things can get tough, right? So that's really speaking to collaborators and advisors, where these are folks who are allied and here as kind of to help support you on this journey. And so building this network of support is quite important earlier on as well. So next, once you have the cast assembled, and it's a continuing process, right? Every time you kind of grow another round, you need to reassemble the cast again for the next ring of people you bring on. But choosing a direction is important, because this requires building ongoing conviction of what you are doing. So to understand how kind of we came to a direction for Integral is you have to understand kind of intuition and sense. And what I mean here by intuition and sense is how we as a team process new information in the world, and how we are informed about the problems and phenomena out there that we can actually kind of help make an impact on. So the kind of how Carl Jung, the father of modern psychology, put it, there's kind of things called intuition and sense. Intuition is how you process new information, and sense is how you kind of intake basically sensory phenomenon around you and engage what's what's happening in relation to you and the world. So for intuition, there's actually, you have to recognize that you may actually get intuition in different ways depending on who's on your team. Some people have introverted intuition, the type of people who brood in an armchair in the morning and evening and think about kind of, hey, like, this is a cool new idea, right? So that actually, within our team, a lot of the kind of financial engineering ideas came through this way. But as well, a fair amount came from processing basically external information and turning that into intuition, which we call extroverted intuition. That's kind of seeing and using and trying out new DeFi protocols kind of as users ourselves, and then updating kind of what we understand of, hey, these are the patterns across kind of all these protocols we've seen across AMMs, for example, during last DeFi summer, as amongst the founding team, we had a bunch of users ourselves, and we really did kind of extrapolate, hey, like this is what some of the protocols do well, and here's what some of the pain points are. And so that allows you to get some direction, right? So sensing as well where a user's pain is can give us an idea of like kind of where are the areas we can build and what's the direction we want to go within our scope of building on a DeFi adventure, right? So more specifically for us, it was in the liquidity space because that was who we are building for. First, ourselves as protocol users. Amongst our team, we have Wi-Fi farmers. We have some of the large protocols that still that have grown now. We all kind of enjoyed being the users of them and encountered our own pain points, right? So to sum it up in a quote, when we went public with our Twitter accounts was, people saying Professor J is such a Chad and actually thinks like a degen or thinks like a farmer. Right? It's because we have some people on the founding team who do that, and it's very crucial to thereby build something that we would use ourselves. So some of these problems we ran into really were not just amongst the crypto users we knew, but really things that we found as pain points. So qualitatively, you have to go and confirm that your intuitions are kind of on point, and it's not just you. It's it's beyond you, and it's something that can be fixed in the space, or maybe a problem that presents itself. And so we went out there and actually talked to on various different channels, whether it be other projects, Discords, Twitter, a lot of Twitter threads, and actually understanding kind of what is it that DeFi users, these early adopters of DEXs and AMMs, kind of what do they want? Kind of what do they like about it? What do they enjoy? What were their biggest pain points? And so we encountered a stream of traders such as this one saying, hey, as my stack got larger, it was harder to trade on these state-of-the-art AMMs and DEXs at the time because of kind of the slippage and cost that eats into large swaps. So they ended up going back to centralized exchanges, but they hate it. They'd rather stay on chain if they can by principle because of actually the self-custody properties of DeFi that allow DeFi users to not be exposed to these centralized counterparty risks that exist in the crypto space. So, so we're just giving this as an example of, going out there and actually confirming, right, that it's not just you, it's other people in the space too. And that's one of the signs that, hey, maybe you're onto something. You're going in a direction where you can actually help a body of users, that's not just yourself, but other users like you. So certainly, this is how we started. This is not always kind of how every team or every project goes about confirming their initial intuitions. And certainly there's the quantitative side of confirming your hunches and your direction. So quantitatively, you can measure some of these qualitative questions via data, because we are in Web3. You can see at least a lot of the DeFi's data on chain. So some of the questions that are important are, who are you helping, right? Confirming in a quantitative sense, kind of how many, maybe how many users like that are out there, or how much of, for example, for us, how much trade volume could actually be served more efficiently. And then we think about how can you guess or backtest or measure or put an estimate on how much impact you might have if you do go and decide to put your conviction in going in the direction you're thinking about. So for us, it was putting out a novel AMM, putting out another DEX, right? That's we had to convince ourselves that that was the direction we were going. Actually, very even up to the middle of last fall. So this is an iterative process that can keep going, kind of even as you're building, right? So in Web3, you know, agile development maybe is kind of not quite as it is in Web2, where you know, when you're building in DeFi, you don't have as much of the luxury of kind of watching things break and then fixing it, right? That's just that becomes irresponsible when you are on mainnet, and we'll dive into that later. But what matters here is it actually makes your process of kind of going live to users slower, and you therefore need to build more conviction, we think, for our area before you actually go live with new protocols. So how we did this was looking at actually other DeFi DEX volumes and looking at, hey, what's the breakdown of different trade sizes? So for us, we had the hunch that, look, large trades are what a lot of users out there are wishing could be served more efficiently on chain. So let's actually look at the numbers for current DEX volumes and see, like, hey, how many of these actual swaps can be better served in this way if we were to, you know, really make Integral targeted at large swaps. And so what we found was actually the majority of trades on leading DEXs at the time could be served actually, you know, in this efficient way where our actually the financial design of what we were doing with the Integral implementation at the time could actually allow us on the innovation and technology side to target and actually help too. So not only did this population exist out there, but that we could actually sustainably you know, build a product that does serve trade sizes. And for us, it was actually $30,000 and up. That was the swap size we were targeting to help everyone who's trading that size and up on chain. And so some of the early data we saw from kind of on chain already reflected that, hey, this direction, you know, it's not a completely you know, picking a blind direction to go into it for our adventure. It was something we validated step by step, and this is some of the examples of how we did it beforehand, before and as we were building the product. So this is all towards in startup talk was ascertaining product market fit, and for us it was putting these three different phenomenon together inside our the financial design of Integral's peer-to-peer exchange. And so this allowed us to basically create what we call the order book AMM, where we embed order book like properties inside the AMM, which actually flowed from a lot of the deep R&D we did earlier last year. So this is actually the kind of recipe which we determined could actually serve the needs we mentioned before. So as a result, traders can achieve better large swap results in terms of execution, and LPs can actually earn better returns with less risk of impermanent loss. And so, if you want to learn more, we can I'll point you at the documentation for Integral at the bottom right here, and we'll continue on to the third aspect of choosing your adventure, which is going to market. Going to market, you need users, right? You need people to, at the end of the day, finally use your product. So how do you know when things are ready? So we actually had a 3 to 4 week lead time before releasing our product, where we began going out of stealth and going public with information about Integral and this project. So this was when we were building out our channels and growing out a Twitter following, growing out a Discord community. And kind of collage you see here is actually the first 300 integral heroes in the Discord. And everyone was aligned on this campaign of, hey, like we can actually transform finance in this kind of in the decentralized finance domain to be more, really there is a path towards inclusivity and participation and democratizing these aspects of liquidity. So yeah, what you see here is a reflection of kind of a community building around the ideas of your vision and the need to actually communicate this to kind of build up some traction around and before your product launch. And so kind of one luxury we have in the Ethereum ecosystem is actually all the various test nets. So one thing we put out to our most dedicated members of the community and later the entire community was the ability to test our swaps on Kovan in our kind of almost ready beta. And one of the feedback we got was it feels like a finished product. A lot of folks said. I mean, certainly with your share of normal edge case UX bugs and suggestions for making this button like that and so on. But at some point your community is going to be ready to start using your product. Luckily, we have in the DeFi ecosystem various test nets where you can stand up new features and alpha and beta versions where people can actually play around a bit in a more risk-free way. So some of the feedback we got was overall great, and you can actually start seeing usage and early product market fit already. So about $400K of $400,000 of Kovan testnet ETH was deposited in the weekend we started with the beta testing. So and that alone supported $1 million of K-ETH trades. So that was a very encouraging start when the actual kind of mainnet smart contract was still being finished and wrapped up and undergoing audits. So this was a very nice way to basically ascertain, hey, that we are going to the right direction, but also as a step towards getting ready to go to market. And so at some point you just need to launch on mainnet, right? Like that, and of course doing this responsibly is important. But at some point, no matter how much preparations you did and how you at some point you may always feel not ready to launch. And so sometimes you just have to go and say, hey, we've done everything we can. Actually on launch day, we actually overexceeded our own internal expectations and how much liquidity we thought we would draw, right? So we were targeting a cap, standing up Integral as a capital efficient AMM with 4 large pools, which would, by kind of our own internal benchmarks, would operate quite sufficiently at even $100 million of TVL and below. And of course, we overexceeded that in just well within the first week and topped out at $750 million of TVL, which was astounding, right? So the lesson there was, hey, sometimes you just don't know what's going to happen when you press the button, I guess, for good and for bad. And to be very honest, like the whole team was quite nervous, as well as the whole community, right? Well, what would happen? So that's kind of, at some point you just have to go on mainnet, right? And that speaks to how, hey, like a successful adventure is it's not always straightforward and up, right? What it really looks like is there can be periods of non-action. There can be periods of where it looks like no progress is being made. So for us, actually, between 9 months ago and 7 weeks ago, really it looks like nothing happened, right? From a product, from a go-to-market and a product point of view, like, but really, a lot of the groundwork was being laid in as we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, developing a hunch, doing R&D and the groundwork, building up that conviction that you're going in the right direction. And you may actually have to go back to the drawing board in that cycle multiple times if you can't find what you think is sufficient product market fit, and if you can't convince yourself of that. So it's it's sometimes not a straightforward path. You're going to need to adopt the experimental mindset, as we do. And here's how kind of we think about it. We're not always, more often than not, we actually do not know the answer to something, as DeFi is still evolving very much. So hypothesis testing is super important. Sometimes you don't really know what you don't know, but once you know don't know something, you can kind of start to strategically gather information about that, right? So some of our hypothesis tests, like they can stem from kind of what you want to ascertain about your product design. But another pillar that's just important is understanding kind of how you're going to grow in the future. And so going to market, for example, was hard when we had no kind of preparing for that when we had no product out yet. So how are we going to get people, for example, to kind of learn about Integral before there's anything to try? So a couple of things we kind of just came from just experimentation and observing and learning is, hey, like engaging with different communities across Web3. Notably, a shout out to the Gitcoin community for engaging with us, where we just opened a Gitcoin Round 9 campaign just to see what would happen, and we ended up raising community funds to help us deploy, actually for our first deploy of the Mainnet Mainnet smart contracts. So you never know what would happen. So we had no idea that we would rise to #1 DApp in that category of GR9 and have the broad support of nearly 2,000 Gitcoin users there. So same thing with building, for example, our Chad Resist NFT for exciting the community in pretty much the first 7 days of opening up our Discord. So it's hard to know what will stick, and sometimes you have ideas and hunches at the smaller scale, and there are ways to test this even while you are kind of running this, building up your project even live. And that's where we get to the second point of experimentation is kind of a great way to progress forward as long as you innovate responsibly. So this of course started changing once we had Mainnet TVL, and so what this meant was we would have to be very very careful, right, with taking on this massive responsibility that the community actually entrusts you with hundreds of millions in TVL, right? That sometimes can change how a team behaves, and for us, we had this prior principle of needing to knowing that we're going for the long term here. It's okay to be maybe a little bit slower but more careful, because now we're entrusted with innovating responsibly, right? So that was a big shift in kind of how we thought about deploying day to day in this new setting when we transitioned from being on just for example, a beta test net to something that's actually live with TVL. And then lastly, I started hinting at this already, but be sure to uphold your team's values and principles in the process of experimentation, right? So of course, there's always danger of going too far. So this is a balance that every team has to strike, and this is a continual challenge that we are aware of. So with that, that's kind of the three themes of this more intangible, softer side of hacking and building, and choosing your own adventure. And I hope you learned something about what went into our team's adventure with Integral. And there's no better time to start every kind of on your own adventure, right? And I would encourage everyone to think about building and setting off on your adventure when you are ready in some sort of framework. Maybe it doesn't have to be this one, but this is how kind of three themes that went into ours. And certainly, these steps don't have to happen linearly. They actually, you can return to these during the lifespan or life cycle of a project. And so with that, we are Integral. We're building the last exchange. Really going to solve all as many liquidity problems as we can, and innovate on that user experience on chain, and grow into what Web3 kind of becomes with as it intersects in the future with traditional finance. And so if you want to join our adventure, we have full-time Integral openings. You can see this at the job board site here. And this is a playful, experimental, and long-term journey, and we hope yours will be as well. So with that, cheers to the Zero X hackathon, and props to everyone who is on the beginning of building something, whether it's for one of the existing protocols out there or maybe your own thing. With that concludes this presentation, and have fun choosing your own adventure. So and Anton, I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Yeah, if we get any questions, that's the moment to ask them if you feel like this. But yeah, I really enjoyed watching your presentation and getting to know the whole story behind Integral and your philosophy.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, so I can't. Okay. Yeah, let me know if anything pops up in the next couple of minutes.
If we have any questions after the live stream, since most of the people watch the recording, we'll point them to your direction, to your Twitter and social media accounts. So no worries about that. I don't think we have any questions right now. So yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So everyone will be building this weekend. Is that part of the plan in the hackathon?
That's exactly the plan. We are running feedback sessions right now. I have been chatting with a few of the teams from all over the world, and they have some interesting ideas. Most of them are newcomers, so that was our goal, to onboard new developers to the Ethereum ecosystem, and it looks like it's working.
Wonderful. Well, cheers to that, to all your participants, Anthony, and happy weekend of hacking, everyone.
Thanks a lot, and thank you very much for taking your time to do this presentation, and hope to see you soon.